When you choose silence, when you decide to step back and let the noise fade, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop chasing explanations, stop justifying yourself, and stop trying to make her see your worth through words. In that quiet space, you discover that silence speaks a language far deeper than anything you could ever say. It carries power, mystery, and strength. It unsettles those who expected you to react, and it commands attention without needing to ask for it. Silence is not weakness. It is controlled power. It is the calm before a storm that never needs to strike, because the storm itself knows it has already been understood. At first, she might think your silence is just a game. Maybe she assumes you're trying to get her attention or manipulate her emotions. But time has a way of revealing what words never could. When your silence lasts longer than she expects, it stops being a reaction and starts being a statement. She begins to feel it. Not through anger or confrontation, but through the absence of your energy. You're not calling, not explaining, not arguing. You're just gone. And that quiet becomes deafening. She starts to realize that your presence once filled more than space. It filled meaning. The conversations, the laughter, the attention you gave her, it all fades, and she feels the void you left behind. Silence changes the balance of power. You no longer fight for understanding. You no longer beg to be seen. You simply let things unfold. That's what Stoicism teaches. That you control your reactions, not other people's actions. Your silence becomes the ultimate display of self-discipline. You show that you are no longer ruled by emotions. And that calm composure stirs something within her. People always feel the difference. When you shift your focus from proving to improving, you're not trying to win her back. You're winning yourself back. And ironically, that's what makes her start to notice you again. In your silence, you grow stronger. You find peace in the very space that once felt unbearable. What used to be anxiety and confusion transforms into clarity and self-respect. You start to see that the connection you were holding on to was only meaningful if it was mutual. You realize that love without balance is just dependency disguised as devotion. And now, your silence becomes a boundary, a quiet way of saying, I respect myself too much to keep chasing what doesn't value me. She will think about you. When the world gets quiet for her too, she'll remember your words, your patience, and your presence. And it won't be the noise of your voice that echoes in her mind. It will be the silence that came after. Because that silence will remind her that you were the one who stayed calm when everything else fell apart. You didn't beg, you didn't chase. You didn't lose yourself trying to hold on to her. You simply stood still, and in that stillness, you became stronger than she ever imagined. And that's when your silence stops being emptiness. It becomes your strength, your statement, your peace. When you stay silent longer than she expects, something shifts. Not just in her perception, but within you. Silence becomes the mirror that reflects truth, revealing what words once blurred. Most people fear silence because it leaves space for thoughts they don't want to face. But when you master that silence, you no longer fear it. You begin to see that in the quiet, clarity grows. It's in those moments of stillness that you finally understand what truly matters and who truly values you. When you stop reaching out, stop explaining yourself, stop chasing her presence, you create a space she never thought she'd feel, the absence of your energy. At first, she might not notice it. She may even convince herself that she doesn't care, that your silence means you've given up or moved on. But deep down, something begins to bother her. It's not anger, it's curiosity. She starts to wonder why you aren't reacting, why you aren't trying anymore, why you seem so unbothered. That curiosity grows because silence is unpredictable. It forces the other person to fill in the blanks, to question their assumptions. When you used to talk, she always knew where you stood. Now that you've gone quiet, she's left guessing, and that mystery starts to weigh on her. For you, though, this silence isn't about revenge or manipulation. It's about reclaiming your peace. You've realized that explaining yourself to someone who doesn't listen only drains your energy. You've understood that not every battle is worth fighting, especially when it's for someone who doesn't value your effort. So instead of arguing, you walk away quietly. Instead of proving your worth, you show it by not needing her validation. That's the essence of Stoicism: self-control, dignity, and inner strength. You're no longer reacting to her actions, you're responding to your own self-worth. With time, this silence begins to change how she sees you. The man who once seemed emotionally available and predictable now feels distant and composed. That calmness, that restraint, becomes magnetic. Women are drawn to men who can maintain their peace amidst chaos. She starts to realize that your silence isn't coldness. It's confidence. You're not trying to make her miss you. You've simply accepted that your value doesn't depend on her attention. And that shift in energy changes everything. She begins to see what she lost when she took your presence for granted. But more importantly, you see it too. You recognize how much of yourself you were giving away, how much energy you wasted trying to be understood by someone who didn't deserve that level of effort. Silence teaches you the beauty of detachment. Not indifference, but strength. You learn that the man who can walk away calmly holds all the power. You understand that your silence doesn't just distance you from her. It connects you back to yourself. In the end, silence isn't just about making her realize your worth. It's about reminding yourself of it. And when you finally find peace in that truth, you no longer need her reaction to validate your strength. You already carry it within you. When you stay silent longer than she expected, what begins to break her down isn't your absence. It's the realization that she no longer has access to the version of you who cared too much. The version of you who used to respond instantly, who used to check in, who used to explain himself, defend his actions, or try to fix what wasn't his fault. That man is gone. Your silence tells her something that words never could. It says, I've moved past needing your approval. And once a woman senses that emotional disconnection, that genuine detachment, it shakes her far more than any argument ever could. Silence is not weakness, it's restraint. It's you saying, I don't need to prove my value to anyone anymore. When she realizes that, confusion sets in. She wonders what changed, what caused you to stop reacting, what made you stop chasing. It used to be easy for her to get your attention, to draw a reaction out of you. But now, your silence has made you unpredictable. And unpredictability creates intrigue. She starts to think about you more, not because she wants you back necessarily, but because she's trying to understand your calm. That's the power of detachment. When you don't feed into her emotional games, she loses control of the narrative she built in her mind. At first, she may try to test your silence. She might post things online to get a reaction, or casually reach out with meaningless messages. But when she doesn't get what she expects, when your responses remain grounded, or worse for her, non-existent, she starts to realize she no longer affects you. That's when the regret slowly creeps in. Not because she suddenly loves you, but because she sees the strength she once overlooked. She begins to recognize that the man she dismissed is no longer the man waiting around for her attention. You've become someone she can't read anymore, someone she can't reach emotionally. And that mystery bothers her more than your presence ever did. For you, this silence is liberation. You've learned that the best way to protect your peace is not through confrontation, but through distance. You no longer need to prove your loyalty to someone who didn't appreciate it. Instead, you let your absence speak volumes. This is the moment where you grow, not by showing her what she lost, but by showing yourself what you've gained emotional control. You start focusing on your goals, your discipline, your mindset. That's when silence transforms into self-respect. And when she finally realizes that your silence is permanent, that you're not just waiting for her to notice, but truly moving forward, it hits her differently. She understands she can't manipulate or guilt trip you anymore. You're beyond that. You've chosen peace over chaos, self-respect over attachment. That's when your silence becomes your loudest statement. In the end, silence isn't about ignoring her. It's about honoring yourself. Because once you master the strength of saying nothing, you no longer need to prove anything. When you stay silent longer than she expected, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. You reclaim your energy, your power, and your identity. This is the stage where silence becomes transformation. It's no longer about proving a point to her. It's about proving something to yourself, that you can survive, grow, and even thrive without her validation. This is where the tables turn, not because you played a game better than she did, but because you stopped playing altogether. Your silence begins to heal you. It removes the noise, the constant overthinking, the endless replaying of moments in your mind. You stop wondering what she's doing, who she's talking to, or what she's feeling. Instead, your focus slowly turns inward. You start to see where you lost yourself while trying to please someone who didn't value your effort. You begin to rebuild your peace brick by brick. This is when silence stops being a strategy. It becomes a sanctuary. You realize that you don't need to speak, argue, or justify anything anymore. The stillness itself becomes your teacher. She, on the other hand, starts to feel the weight of that silence differently now. At first, she thought it was temporary, a phase you'd break soon. But as days turn into weeks and your energy remains calm, distant, and controlled, she starts to understand that this is permanent. That realization hits harder than any words could, because now she sees a version of you that no longer needs her presence to feel whole. And that's what truly unsettles her. You've become something she can't influence anymore. And for someone used to control, that's a loss she didn't prepare for. While she's reflecting on what went wrong, you're evolving quietly. You pour that same energy you once gave to her into your own growth. You read, train, improve your discipline, strengthen your mindset, and focus on your future. You stop chasing emotional highs and start seeking balance. This change is powerful because it's silent. It doesn't need attention. It doesn't demand validation. It just happens naturally when a man decides he's done being emotionally available to those who take him for granted. And here's the beauty of it. When you stay silent long enough, the world around you starts to shift. Opportunities open up. Your confidence grows. You begin to attract better energy, people who match your peace instead of draining it. The silence that once felt heavy becomes a sign of maturity, of emotional mastery. You learn that peace is louder than words, and walking away with dignity is stronger than winning an argument. By the time she realizes what your silence truly means, it's too late. She finally sees the man she thought she could replace was one of a kind. But you've already accepted that the best closure is moving forward. Your silence wasn't revenge, it was evolution. And when you master that, you never lose again. Because sometimes the loudest message you can ever send is complete, unwavering silence. When you continue to stay silent longer than she expected, you begin to cultivate a sense of emotional independence that is both rare and transformative. This stage is less about her and more about you stepping fully into your own power. Silence becomes a tool for self-mastery, a way to reclaim control over your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. You're no longer reacting to her moods, texts, or behaviors. You're creating space to understand yourself, your desires, and your boundaries without the constant pull of someone else's validation. In this quiet, you start to notice patterns you never saw before. You realize how much energy was spent trying to predict her reactions, appease her, or chase her attention. You understand that your time and emotions are precious, and the longer you stay silent, the more you respect your own worth. This realization brings an inner calm that can't be shaken by her actions or inactions. She might assume that your silence is uncertainty, but in truth, it is your ultimate form of clarity and self-respect. As days turn into weeks, your detachment begins to affect her in ways words never could. Initially, she may have expected you to reach out, to explain, or to chase after her. When that doesn't happen, she starts to feel the weight of your absence. Her mind naturally begins to fill the void you left, thinking about moments you shared, the connection you had, and the unique qualities that set you apart from everyone else. She begins to see, sometimes for the first time, what she has taken for granted. Your silence forces her to confront the reality that you are not dependent on her, and this is far more unsettling than confrontation or arguments ever could be. Meanwhile, your own growth accelerates. You invest the time and energy you once spent on her into yourself, your goals, your health, your passions, and your personal development. This silent work on yourself is subtle yet profound. It signals to the universe, and eventually to her, that you are a man of substance who cannot be controlled or swayed by fleeting emotions. By focusing inward, you build a life that is so fulfilling that her opinions and attention become secondary. You start to live according to your values, not in reaction to someone else's whims. Over time, the power dynamic shifts without a single word being exchanged. You demonstrate that emotional detachment is not coldness but strength. It communicates confidence, self-reliance, and the ability to maintain peace under pressure. This kind of quiet strength often leaves a deeper impression than any argument, clear, or dramatic gesture ever could. She may begin to regret how she treated you, but your silence ensures that you remain untouchable by past disappointments or her attempts to manipulate. Ultimately, your prolonged silence teaches both of you a vital lesson: true value is recognized only when it is not forced, and respect is earned through self-respect. By choosing to remain quiet and focus on your growth, you've not only changed the way she perceives you, but, more importantly, you've transformed your own sense of worth and purpose. Sometimes the most powerful action a man can take is to say nothing at all. When you maintain your silence longer than she anticipated, something subtle yet powerful begins to occur. She starts to reassess her own feelings and behavior. This isn't about manipulation or games. It's about allowing space for truth and reflection to emerge naturally. By stepping back, you create a void that compels her to face the reality of your absence. Suddenly, she notices the small things she took for granted. The way you listened, the care you showed, the consistency you brought into her life. Your silence shines a light on what was once overlooked, making her realize the depth of your value. As she grapples with your absence, her mind can't help but wander to the moments where your presence added stability, joy, or understanding. The things that were normal and almost invisible to her before now stand out starkly. She begins to see the difference between someone who is genuinely invested in her life and those who were merely filling space. Your quiet withdrawal triggers introspection on her part, making her question past actions, words, and decisions. She may start recognizing that she underestimated your importance and that your departure, even temporarily, has disrupted the comfort she relied upon. Meanwhile, your life is moving forward, intentionally and deliberately. You focus on your own goals, your personal growth, and the things that elevate your sense of self. This is critical because silence alone isn't magic. It's the combination of absence and visible progress that amplifies her awareness. She starts seeing, either directly or indirectly, that your life is not paused for her. You are creating value and fulfillment independently, and that independence is magnetic. It's not about making her chase you. It's about showing that your worth exists outside of her approval or attention. In the quiet, her emotional response can become complex. She may feel frustration, confusion, or even a twinge of regret. This is natural because humans are wired to notice what is lost more sharply than what is taken for granted. Your silence forces her to confront her emotions honestly. Without your influence, without your explanations, she begins to appreciate the subtle yet profound impact you had on her life. And sometimes that realization only comes when it is too late to reclaim what was lost easily. Throughout this period, your own mindset strengthens. You are no longer entangled in the need for validation or constant feedback. Your focus on self-mastery, patience, and understanding of Stoic principles cultivates a calm confidence. You understand that your silence is not punishment. It's clarity, dignity, and a demonstration of self-respect. You communicate more through absence than words could convey, showing that a man who respects himself cannot be swayed by fleeting emotions or external pressures. Ultimately, your deliberate silence and continued personal growth create a scenario where she may recognize your irreplaceable value, but you remain unshaken in your self-worth. This balance of presence in your own life and absence in hers teaches both of you a powerful lesson. Respect and appreciation cannot be demanded. They emerge naturally when boundaries are honored. Sometimes, letting go without explanation is the most profound way to show your value.